Per usual, living on this channel for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. I am not a financial planner, but we're going to take a look at my plan for the next 3 to 6 months. That's months with an M, not weeks with a W or days with a D. M as in Mary. I don't want to get hyperbolic here, but it feels like it's going to take a while for us to bottom. I may be wrong. Have a plan for days and weeks, but this plan is going to be geared towards probably, my guess, multiple weeks minimum. That's my guess. So we'll run through it for BTC. I've got a meme coin portfolio to talk about how I'm addressing that nonsense. So the first thing I did, obviously you want to write this down. Okay, put it in an Excel spreadsheet or something, whatever, but write it down just so you have a record of it so you can look back on it in a few months' time, much like I watch my own YouTube videos all the time to see what I was saying in 2022 and 2021 and 2020. Make the pros cons column, right? Make the bull bear arguments. Now, you may be more bullish than I am for various reasons, and that's fine. This is just sort of stuff that came up off the top of my head. We can add altcoin unlocks to this, because for every day, week, month that goes by, alts are also continually losing against Bitcoin's inflation or lack thereof. So in the bull column, a lot of this stuff I've talked about over the past 2 weeks, but let's just get it all out on the table. We're post-halving. Historically, that's bullish. It's bullish later, not bullish immediately. When we're above the weekly cloud on a technical basis, that's great. Historically, that has led to significant rallies after a bear market. We talked about that a bunch. Yes, we know the US is in a debt spiral. Eventually, we will see US dollar collapse. All this stuff is decades potentially down the line. It's going to take time. I think what the doomers as a disservice for most people do is they give you this false time constraint where they say the rapture is coming and they give you a date, and that date passes and then you get a new date and then you get a new date, right? The economy is an ocean liner. It turns slowly, it moves slowly. It's going to take time for things to happen. It's going to take time for unemployment to tick up. It's going to take time for the yield curve to uninvert. It's going to take time to bring rates down. And that is where the weeks to months comes in here. We're used to, on the crypto side, everything happening overnight. A meme coin going from 0 to 1 billion and in less than a couple of days. There's a time and a place for that. I don't personally think now is the time and the place for that. Like I have here, we just came off of a 6-month bull rally. We just came off of liquidity getting dumped into the ecosystem. We don't have that now, okay? Daily cloud on Bitcoin looks very bad. If you're bullish, it's very bad. Which I assume most people are holders. That's why you're watching this channel. But the daily cloud I'll look at in a second does not look good, has not looked good for at least a couple of weeks now. We got our bearish TK cross a few days ago. So there's all sorts of reasons why technicals are telling you now is not the time to be long. Now is not the time to look for longs. Again, this probably takes weeks to months. So what do I want to see? Basically the opposite of all this. To be bullish, I'd love to see the dollar calm the frick down, because we are inverse to that. This is likely not going to happen until rates come down. So again, you need to have some sort of understanding and opinion here. Do we think rates are going to be at this level for 3 to 6 months? I do. That's why I think it's going to take weeks to months. Do I think the rest of the world is going to cut faster than we are within the next 3 to 6 months? I do. That's why I think it's going to take weeks to months. I also think the AI narrative that's been fueling legacy, eventually it's going to run out of steam. I'm not going to call a top. I'm not going to say short NVIDIA. I'm just saying it gets harder to push this stuff up continuously. That's all I'm saying. Expectations just get so high that it's just hard to keep them hot that long. We also have the Forex instability with UJ and USDCNH, and all this is going to lead to potentially rates going higher. That's going to lead to dollar strength. And again, it's going to take weeks to months probably for all this to play out. We, of course, have the Middle East and Ukraine. None of this stuff, I said this week, none of this stuff has gotten better. None of this stuff has gotten less bearish. One side thing on liquidity, we got a QRA preview yesterday, Yellen saying she's not going to run the TGA down to 0. Not only that, but now we have the reverse repo filling back up. So all the more reason liquidity is going in the wrong direction. I have a metric we can look at the end for global liquidity, because I get a lot of people angry that I only talk about the United States. But I'm just saying, look, we are going in the wrong direction. We are headed in the wrong direction. That's without even discussing ETF flows, which ultimately are informed by dollar strength, forex instability, bond volatility, and rates. Okay, all this stuff, everything is connected. We are a $1 trillion asset. We are in with the big boys now. Undeniably, we are connected to legacy for some extended period of time. So what do I want to see? I want to see large flows, and that's large flows out or in. Large flows out will bring us lower. That's just a fact. We've gotten 12 billion in. If we get 2 billion out, make a plan. How low do you think we go? Probably to 50-ish, right? We have this perpetual bidding machine known as the Morgan Stanley warehouses eventually coming online. Not yet. It's coming later. We've got ETF stuff for ETH coming later. We've got this whole regulatory battle with ETH. We've got regulatory attacks on Bitcoin. They arrested Bitcoin Jesus today. I don't know if they arrested him, but they charged him with a bunch of stuff. It's just all a bad, it's a bad look. The reality is none of this affects Bitcoin directly. None of this affects the network. That's why I remain bullish on Bitcoin. And in 2017, we saw so much of this over and over and over again throughout the trend. So I don't think this is a cycle top. I think we have plenty of room for 300K by July 2025 or October 2025 or whatever, a year from now. This is my little time capsule for a year from now. So what else do I want to see? I would love to see some ETH staking panic. I would love to see some ETH unstaking. I know there's been this eigenlayer thing with blah, 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 and airdrops and points and whatever and farming. I don't care. I want to see some ETH people lose their religion to be sure that ETH is done dumping. Daily bullish TK cross. That's sort of self-explanatory for our Arbitix cloud. Again, this is just random stuff. What am I looking for? I'm looking for MSTR to 800. What is my maximum downside expectation? Potentially back to where the ETFs launched. I don't think we go back to the base where ETFs were announced, which would be like sub 40. But I think 40s for a short period of time is not out of the realm of possibility. So, I think 56 is a given. I think the weekly 20 moving average is a given. And I have a whole thing talking about where exactly to place the alerts, because again, I get a lot of questions about that as well. But I would put it all out on the table. Let's say I want to be denominated in meme coins and alts and whatever else 3 to 6 months from now. Okay, let's plan that out. Let's figure it out. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. So on Kraken Pro, just because we're on the topic of alerts for the time being, once you're logged in, you can right-click anywhere on the chart, on any chart. You can go to Bonk, go to ICP, go to whatever, okay? You can right-click on any level, set the alert, and it will be in your alerts log. You will then receive push notifications if your phone is connected to the app. So you will never miss an alert, ever. And I would be liberal with this, okay? Here's, again, random chart. Here's some notes I had. Do I want to buy ICP at 11? I don't. Personally, I think we're going to get more bearish than that. But as an example, that's something you can do. So when I'm talking about alerts, you can do that all through Kraken Pro. Looking at the Bitcoin chart, this is, again, the only chart that really matters to me for all the entirety of crypto. That includes MSTR, that includes any of the ETFs, that includes everything, because everything follows this chart. We're likely to close in the daily cloud today with a bearish TK cross. Is this too late to short? Is what a lot of people are going to ask me. I personally think it's probably late. Is it too late? That's up to you. You're the trader. It's different for different people. But I certainly, again, I wouldn't be margin long here. I wouldn't be looking for immediate bounces. I just wouldn't be playing any of this. It's going to be chop. It's going to be garbage range. It's going to be very difficult to make money on the long side. The bounces will be quick and swift, and expect lower lows. That's just where we're at. Expect turbulence we're inside of the cloud. This could be fast, it could be slow, it's all up in the air. So as far as levels, if I had to blindly put levels of support on this chart for bids, it would be the bottom of the cloud, it would be the yearly pivot, it would be the bottom of this pitchfork, it would be the bottom of the measured move of this range. I have all these in a spreadsheet in a second. Also the 20-week moving average, which I don't have on here, that is at around 54. Those would be the immediate levels I would watch. Depending on how you want to play this, maybe you focus more in the 52.5 region and you put 50% of your initial bids below 52.5, 25% at the bottom of the cloud, whatever, right? Sprinkle it around. I think it's going to be very hard to initially determine how low we go here because of all the volatility coming in the next couple weeks. And if we look at MSTR, I mean, nothing makes me more upset than people who are cheerleading a company. Tesla's the same, but cheerleading a company, bringing sheep to the slaughter, aka followers of that individual, telling them how bullish things are, having some fundamental thesis that's just completely off base. And then today we're down 15%, 16%, whatever. So it's important to establish your own plan and be responsible for your own trades. That's the moral of that story. But I also like MSTR much, much lower, below the midpoint, potentially to the bottom of the darker blue diagonal here, okay? So as far as other options for TradFi crypto products outside of Kraken, let's say, if that's your poison, right? I know a lot of people that trade everywhere. They trade on every exchange. They trade on Legacy, but it's important to know the lay of the land and what to look for. I wouldn't get analysis paralysis here on charting every one of these. Again, I would chart Bitcoin, and probably that's it. MSTR, I look at this stuff once every other day. I do like alerts on MSTR slightly lower. I like the BitX 4-hour cloud. We'll look at that in a second. But there are other options to express an idea. If you think we're going lower, if we pop to 63 and you think we're going lower and you want to take a stab with some short product, that's an option, right? If you want to look for bids on any of these, that's an option. But I think it's important to just know what's available on which exchange. Depending on who you are around the world, I know everybody does everything a little bit differently. Looking at the BitX chart, I said this earlier in the week, but 4-hour BitX has been dead on the money for the cloud as far as a trend that's worth trading. They're not all going to look this clean coming up, but none of this is telling you to be long here. Absolutely nothing. The difficult part is sort of porting over the biddable zones from, let's say, the BTC chart. You know, it's not going to be 1-to-1. It's not going to be perfect, but I'd argue maybe in the 28 region, maybe in the 20 to 24 region. Those would be levels to consider. There's also the inverse products. This is BITI, 1x short BTC. This is on the 4-hour. You can see we're working our way through a 4-hour edge to edge on this product. This is also probably an inverted head and shoulders, probably some sort of ascending triangle. This looks very bullish, therefore shorts make sense, at least based on technicals to me, okay? This isn't a statement on the quality of the network and decentralization of Bitcoin. This is a trade. I am a trader. You are watching a trading channel. Just keep that in mind, okay? And even as a signal for bids, this is something to watch on the spot side, right? For people who want to watch multiple things, that's always an option. So the other question I get from people is, okay, what do you do with your cash when you're waiting? I think it's a little early to just put stuff on the order book, but having something on the order book is always a good idea. I made a list, again, lay of the land. This is just an amateurish list as of today of things you can do that aren't holding BTC. I know it's dangerous to say that out loud, but these are the options. This is the APY for those products. This is the description of what they contain. And you can see the short end is where most of the money is as far as the yield is concerned. If you're bullish DXY, like I am, these are also options. There are other money markets. Like there's plenty of stuff is my argument here. If you just look a little bit for something, you will find it. There is the most basic sweep account type stuff for the ultimate do nothing strategy. depending on, again, your country, what you have access to, etc. There's also yield on USDC through Coinbase, should you so choose. Something else to think about with these products is, what do they contain? Are they blended? Are they all over the place? So this is near the ETF, not the crypto. And you can see, as far as the duration, the maturity, it's mixed, mostly focused in the 2 to 3 year range, but something to pay attention to, right? With these T-bills, T-bonds, etc. Something like TLT that's gotten taken to the woodshed, the yield looks attractive, maybe, but the price of that product has dropped considerably. And here's GOVT, again, it's blended. I think there will be a time and a place for allocating into the longer midpoint of the curve, but if we look at the curve, again, this is why I talk about this on Mondays, but if we look at the curve, the belly is probably going to keep rising. The long end's probably going to keep rising. So I think safety is 6 months or less. So, that kind of limits the products I would personally focus on. Something, something in this region, or just the money market, whatever, right? Something where you don't have to worry about the duration risk potentially coming up. Again, do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor, etc. Now, if we go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, let's talk about meme coins for a second. I talked about having this meme coin portfolio a couple weeks back. I did the same thing. Make a list, check it twice, figure out who's naughty or nice, determine what for you want to see in this meme coin. Potentially, this is a fool's errand. This is probably going to go to zero. Let's be honest. A lot of this stuff probably won't do well. But if we in Q4 start to perk up like I think we will, you may want to be ready for that. Whether or not that's dollar cost averaging before Q4 or waiting for Q4. Again, these are all sort of the things you want to look for, in my opinion. Considerations here, things you want to measure against here. I would map this out, what you want, where to buy it. You certainly have to consider transaction fees, trading fees, that sort of thing. If we're trying to map out a plan, I would literally do this, okay? Because I did it. I would say, this is what I want. This is what I want each week. I've back weighted this towards Q4. I may not go through with this. I don't know. It depends how bad things look. But this type of plan, something like this, is excruciatingly slow. But it does get you in a little bit by August. Now, wake me up when September ends is a thing. So, aka super bearish on seasonality. So you got to be careful with that. And maybe you want to, wait the August dates a little less and wait the September dates a little more, whatever. But I think you get the point. I would map this out, plan it out, and be a motionless robot with it, because for some of this stuff, it's going to get pretty ugly, probably. But if you got conviction, I would certainly go for it. Again, it's anybody's guess what does well for whatever reason. These 5 here, I don't think are necessarily going anywhere. The biggest risk is always going to be regulatory risk for these. Just because if they get delisted, that's it. They go to zero. So definitely keep that in mind for a lot of these. On the memeier side, lastly here, if we go to the alerts section, I'll put all this in the description of the video. I would, again, make a list for whatever you're watching. If it's ETH, if it's Sol, all this is basically applicable to anything. Same idea. All this stuff I've been talking about for a couple weeks now. But I would list it out. Make sure you have your levels planned out roughly, right? It doesn't have to be exact, but roughly. What are you looking for? What do you want to see? You never want to forget something or miss something. The speed at which this is going to bottom, I don't think is going to be an issue for most people. They're going to see it coming, probably. But I think this helps prevent the FOMO. This helps prevent people from seeing a good day on ETH a couple days ago and jumping in and thinking, oh, ETH BTC, this is the bottom, right? We told you it wasn't, probably. And I still don't think it is the bottom for ETH BTC. At the very bottom of this list are the more on-chain type stuff to watch for. So I'll just mention these real quick. MVRV, market cap versus realized cap. Historically, in a bear market, it's 0. In a top of the bull market, it's 7+. We're currently 2.12. I like buys blindly based on this. Less than 1, around 1. I don't think we'll get to 0 because this isn't a bear market, but I think we will return to close to this realized cap over time. The bear market can be time, The intra-bear cycle, whatever you want to think about that, can be time. It doesn't just have to be price. So that's one thing to watch going forward. Whale multiple, how rich are the miners today versus 365 days ago? Because of halving, this got chopped in half. Okay. Currently it's at 0.74. Bottoming periods are typically when this is 0.5 or less. So again, something to watch for. Looking at the short-term holder realized price, that's what STH stands for. Same thing, where's that at? 59.8. You can see in bull market periods, we tend to hold above that level, and bear market periods, we tend to hold below that level. Something else to watch for. You can look at this in 2017, very similar. We usually dip into it and then find it as support. So that's a decent stab level to think about as well. For liquidity, this is global M2 versus price, and you can see we've sort of topped out here in the moment at around 94 trillion. Something to watch. Definitely in the next couple of months as this probably starts to turn back up. And then lastly, hash ribbons, I'll add that to the list. This looks at the 30-day and 60-day moving average on hash rate. And again, historically, if you just backtest this visually, this typically is a pretty good bottom signal for price. So again, what do you want to see? You want to see miners stressed. You want to see price stressed. You want to see flows negative. You want to see ETH unstaking, right? You want to see emotion. You want to see fear, anger, aggression. That's how you know from an emotional standpoint, we are closer to a bottom than a top. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.